My sister called me last month, completely panicked. She had just found out that her 24-year-old best friend, this beautiful, ambitious girl who just got her master's degree and started her dream job at a tech company, had been secretly dating a man for 8 months. When my sister finally met him at a small dinner party, she told me later that she almost dropped her wine glass. The man was 52, gray hair, lines around his eyes, wearing a simple navy sweater that probably cost less than what my sister spent on her shoes. He wasn't famous, he wasn't rich, he drove a 10-year-old Honda. And yet, when she watched them together for just one evening, she said something that stuck with me. She said, "I don't understand it, but I've never seen her look that calm around any man before. Not the guys our age, not the guys with the fancy jobs and the perfect Instagram profiles. She just softens around him, like she finally exhaled." My sister spent the entire car ride home trying to figure out what this older man had that the younger, more successful guys didn't. She ran through the obvious explanations. Money? No, he was a high school history teacher. Status? No, he had no social media presence at all. Good looks? He was handsome in a weathered way, but not the kind of handsome that turns heads in a bar. She was genuinely confused. And honestly, I think most people are confused by this. We see a younger woman with a much older man, and our brains immediately reach for the easiest explanation. He's paying for her lifestyle. She's looking for a father figure. She has daddy issues. She's just using him for security. But here's the uncomfortable truth that most people won't say out loud. Sometimes, and more often than we admit, she's with him because he offers something that men her own age have completely forgotten how to provide. Something that has nothing to do with bank accounts or age gaps on paper. Something that lives in the way he listens, the way he doesn't panic, the way he makes her feel like she can finally stop performing. Today, I want to walk you through what that something actually is. Because once you understand it, you stop seeing age gap relationships as weird or transactional, and you start seeing them as a mirror showing us what younger men have lost in the rush to be impressive, and what older men have found in the process of simply surviving long enough to know what actually matters. If you're finding value in these conversations, hit subscribe and turn on the notifications. I'm building something here for men who want to understand women on a level that goes way beyond surface-level dating advice. Next week, I'm going deep into the signs that tell you she's emotionally checking out before she ever says a word. Trust me, you need that one. Don't miss it. The first thing you need to understand is that younger women are exhausted by emotional chaos. And I mean genuinely exhausted. The modern dating landscape for women in their 20s and early 30s is a minefield of mixed signals, ghosting, situationships, and men who say they want something real but act like they're still figuring out if they even want to grow up. These women are constantly managing conversations that go nowhere. They're decoding texts that take 3 days to arrive. They're dealing with men who are emotionally available 1 minute and completely shut down the next. They're navigating a world where commitment has become a scary word and consistency has become a rare luxury. And after years of this, something shifts inside them. They stop wanting excitement and start wanting peace. They stop wanting the guy who makes their heart race with anxiety and start wanting the guy who makes their nervous system relax. The older man, the one who has already been through his own chaos, who has already made his mistakes and learned from them, who has already figured out that games are a waste of time, that man represents something incredibly rare to a younger woman who is tired. He represents emotional predictability, not boring predictability, but the kind of predictability that says, I will show up, I will be here, I will not disappear because I got scared or because someone else caught my attention. That reliability, that groundedness, that sense that he has already weathered storms and come out the other side, it creates a feeling of safety that no amount of youth or good looks can replicate. Because here's what most younger men don't realize. A woman can be wildly attracted to you physically and still feel completely unsafe with you emotionally. And when she has to choose between attraction and safety, safety wins every single time. Not because women are boring, but because the human nervous system is wired to prioritize survival over excitement. And emotional safety is survival. The second thing is presence. Real, undivided, unhurried presence. This is something that older men often develop naturally, not because they're better people, but because they've simply slowed down. They've been through enough to know that the world doesn't end if you put your phone down for an hour. They've learned that a conversation is more important than a notification. They've figured out that listening is actually more powerful than talking. When an older man sits across from a younger woman at dinner, he's not checking his phone every 3 minutes. He's not mentally rehearsing what he's going to say next while she's talking. He's not scanning the room to see who else is there. He's looking at her. He's listening to the words she's saying and the words she's not saying. He's asking questions that show he actually heard her. He's comfortable with silence in a way that younger men rarely are. And that kind of presence makes a woman feel seen in a way that is almost impossible to fake. Because presence is not a technique. It's not something you can learn from a YouTube video in a weekend. It's the byproduct of a man who has stopped trying to prove himself to everyone and has started simply being himself with the people who matter. Younger women feel this difference immediately. They might not be able to name it. They might just say, he feels different, or I can just be myself around him. But what they're really experiencing is the rare gift of being with someone who isn't performing, who isn't trying to impress, who is simply there, fully, completely, without distraction. And in a world where everyone is constantly half present, that fullness feels like oxygen. Let me pause here and ask you something real. When was the last time you were with someone who made you feel like you were the only person in the room? Drop the word present in the comments if you know that feeling. I want to know who's really hearing this. The third thing is emotional leadership, and this is where the age gap conversation gets really interesting. Most younger men are still figuring out their own emotions. They're still reactive. They still get defensive when challenged. They still panic when a woman expresses something intense. They still need her to manage their feelings while she's trying to manage her own. An older man, generally speaking, has already done enough emotional work to know who he is. He doesn't need her to validate his existence. He doesn't fall apart when she has a bad day. He doesn't make her emotions about his insecurity. When she gets upset, he doesn't immediately try to fix it or run away from it. He can hold space. He can say, I hear you. That sounds really hard. I'm here. And mean it. That emotional leadership, that ability to be the calm in her storm without making it about himself, is incredibly attractive to a younger woman who is often exhausted from being the emotional anchor in every relationship she's had. She's tired of managing men's egos. She's tired of walking on eggshells. She's tired of being the one who has to keep everything stable while her partner falls apart over minor conflicts. The older man offers something different. He offers the experience of being with someone who can handle her complexity without crumbling, who can see her emotions without being threatened by them, who can lead the emotional temperature of the relationship instead of forcing her to do it alone. That leadership isn't about control. It's about capacity. It's about having enough emotional room to hold both himself and her without collapsing. And that capacity is something that usually comes with time, with experience, with having been broken and rebuilt enough times to know that feelings aren't dangerous. They're just information. The fourth thing is intentionality. Older men tend to know what they want, not in a controlling way, not in a desperate way, but in a clear, quiet way that younger women find incredibly refreshing. A younger man might spend 6 months in a situationship, never defining what they are, never committing to anything, always keeping one foot out the door just in case something better comes along. An older man, generally, has already played those games. He's already learned that ambiguity is exhausting, and that clarity is actually a gift. When he likes her, he says it. When he wants to see her, he makes plans. When he's not interested, he's honest about it. He doesn't waste her time or his own. That intentionality creates a feeling of being chosen, of being valued enough to not be kept in limbo. Younger women are so used to being in undefined spaces, to being one of several options, to never knowing where they stand, that when a man simply says, I want you, I'm here, I'm not looking anywhere else, it feels like a revelation. It feels like finally being seen as enough, not because she's desperate for commitment, but because she's tired of being an option in someone else's indecision. The older man's clarity, his willingness to move forward without playing games, his comfort with wanting something real, all of that signals something to her nervous system. It says, this man is safe, this man is serious, this man is not going to disappear. And that signal, that quiet certainty, is often more attractive than any physical feature. The fifth thing, and this is the strongest one, is that he makes her feel like a woman, not a project. This is the game changer. This is what separates the age gap relationships that last from the ones that crash and burn. Younger men often approach relationships with a kind of frantic energy. They want to impress her. They want to prove themselves. They want to show her how much they know, how much they've achieved, how much potential they have. And in that rush to prove, they accidentally make her feel like she's being evaluated, like she's a prize to be won, like she's a project that will validate their worth if they can just get her to choose them. An older man, the one who has already proven himself to himself, doesn't need her for validation. He doesn't need her to make him feel like a man. He already knows who he is. So when he's with her, he's not performing. He's not trying to win. He's simply enjoying her. her. He appreciates her youth without fetishizing it. He admires her energy without trying to control it. He makes her feel like a woman who is beautiful and interesting and worthy of attention. Not because she's a trophy, but because she's a human being who happens to be in front of him. That difference is everything. When a woman feels like she's being enjoyed rather than acquired, she relaxes. She opens up. She becomes more of herself. She doesn't have to perform femininity for him. She doesn't have to be perfect. She doesn't have to manage his insecurity while trying to be attractive. She can simply be. And that feeling of being able to simply be, without the pressure of being someone's validation, is one of the most powerful experiences a woman can have. It's the feeling that makes her choose him over men her own age, who might be more conventionally suitable. It's the feeling that makes her walk through judgment and side eyes and family concerns and still say, I'm with him because I feel like myself when I'm with him. And that, more than age or money or status, is the real reason. So there you have it. 5 reasons that have nothing to do with bank accounts or daddy issues. 5 reasons that are about emotional safety, presence, leadership, intentionality, and the rare gift of being enjoyed rather than acquired. The age gap isn't the point. The point is what the gap often represents. A man who has slowed down enough to actually see her. A man who has survived enough to know what matters. A man who doesn't need her to make him feel like a man, which ironically makes him the most masculine presence she's ever experienced. If this conversation opened something up for you, hit that like button so more men who need this can find it. Subscribe and turn on the bell if you want to keep going deeper on connection, understanding women, and becoming the kind of man who creates real loyalty. Drop a comment below with the number of the reason that surprised you the most. And if you know a guy who's constantly confused about why women choose who they choose, send this to him. Not because he's wrong, but because he deserves to understand. Until the next time we talk, stay calm, stay present, and stay grounded. This is Mind of Connection. I'll see you soon.